school choice would, I think your words were, defund public education. Can you please explain exactly how it would do that?
Yeah, as students would accept the vouchers, they would leave the public schools, and then the public schools would receive less money because they're paid, per student. And then because of, the overhead costs on these schools, if you lose, small percentage, 5% of students, you're going to have impacts. You're going to have teachers. You're going to have teachers being fired, extracurriculars being wiped out. There will be big impacts on these districts, even if a small percentage of students leave the public school.
So is it fair for me to summarize a much shorter version of what you just said is it would defund public schools because families would leave. They would make the choice to go elsewhere.
I think you can say that.
Why might they do that?
There's many reasons why they would make the choice. A lot of the reasons might be the fact that there is a degree of propaganda that says that all private schools are better than all public schools. That if you go to a private school, it's a fast track to better results, even though that's not necessarily true, and that not all private schools provide better results.
So your premise is that if given the choice, some parents would leave, and those parents are not equipped to make a decision on their own.
Well, some parents would not even be able to leave, and frankly, the voucher,
well, then
a lot of it would
then
go.
They wouldn't leave, right?
Well, they wouldn't be able to leave because
if they can't leave, then their public school is not getting defunded. You said it would defund public schools. Explain that.
Because the students would leave the public schools.
And why would they leave?
There's many reasons why they would leave the public schools.
Who should choose?
Who should choose?
Yeah, should the parent choose or should the government choose what school that particular student should go to?
Well, it'd be nice if the parents could choose, but that's not even the case.
Well, because we haven't passed school choice in Texas
Well, because the private schools get to choose the students.
No, but hang on. I'm talking about your contention that ESAs would defund public education. And you had to answer, although it was painful for you, you had to acknowledge that if given the choice, some parents would choose to leave their current residentially zoned government school. Is that correct?
They would leave for many reasons.
But it's their choice to leave. If given a choice, they would leave, right? Because if that's not true, then no public school is getting quote-unquote defunded. Is that right? I'm not talking to you respectfully. I'm talking to the teacher union representative right now.
Right, and
Thank you very much. Well, hang on. I want to go with this line of thought because he made the contention here in public testimony, and I want to understand this because I hear it all over the state that it would defund public education. So you have acknowledged that the only reason that even might be true is if a parent, when presented with an opportunity, may choose to put their child in a different educational environment. And I would submit, I'd love to hear if you think differently, maybe you do. Parents wouldn't make that choice if they believe that the school they're moving to would be a worse school for their child, would they?
Well, these private schools, a lot of them do not have the same reporting, so they might not be able to make the informed decision.
Okay, and so this feels like a very paternalistic argument that you know better than those parents. Who should make the choice, you, the government, or their parent of the student in question? Because I think that's fundamentally what this whole debate is about, is who gets to decide.
If I take a voucher, there's no guarantee that any private school would accept me.
Is there any guarantee right now that that parent's kid is getting a quality education when we just had the TEA commissioner in here 7 hours ago attest that 60% of Texas students aren't reading and doing math at grade level?
Well,
what about the kids that are in the 60% that are not getting that education?
If instead of focusing on this taxpayer-funded voucher, we focus on increasing basic allotment and increasing funding for our public schools, we can create environments where parents will receive the good outcomes that they want.
Right, but for right now, your contention is that they should stay trapped in a school that's failing them. And I want to go further with this defunding notion, because are there any ESA proposals that you're aware of in the state of Texas that would take 100% of the government funding per pupil and let that exact money follow the child, or is a number or a percentage of the total government funding? This matters. Hang on a second. Are any of the ESA proposals proposing to take 100% of the per pupil funding in the value of an ESA and give it to a parent?
There have been many different voucher proposals with differing amounts.
Okay, all of the ones that were contemplated last session were a percentage of the total state funding, which is around 15,000. We heard this morning, right? They were all around 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,000, right? And even the most generous ESAs were around that number. Well, that, since it's less than the full funding that's currently going to the schools would keep the delta, right? Yes, they absolutely would. They absolutely would. And what that would mean is that per pupil funding under every ESA contemplated last session would actually increase if universal ESA programs were passed in the state of Texas.
It's simple math.
I agree that it's simple
And I
math.
teach
Mr.
mathematics.
Chairman,
Thank you, Chairman.
I was going to speak on this
hold
issue
on.
when you get to the
We're trying to get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Representative-
everything he said is wrong, and I'd be glad to explain
Representative
why.
Hinojosa.
And I say
Hold
that
on.
as having spent 8 years as the budget chairman of education and a member of this committee.
James,
Yes.
It's up to the chairman.
you know the way public education in the state of Texas works and school funding works. When a child leaves a public school, does 100% of the funding that's at that public school
right.
leave with the child?
Yeah.
It does not.
Yes, it does. Yes, it
When
does.
a child leaves a public school, does 100% of the public school funding that is paying for that child to be in public school leave the school?
Correct.
Yes.
That's correct. That's the way funding works in the state of education when it comes to public school funding. Might a parent who maybe doesn't get a 5th grade teacher at their school, or who loses an assistant principal who made sure that her kid was safe at that school, or whose junior in high school doesn't get a science teacher, or whose junior in high school loses a college counselor, might that parent who determines that the state of Texas is never going to get its act together to fully fund our public schools, might they consider leaving their public school?
We need to fund our Texas public schools. It is dire. We are having budget deficits all across Texas. This is the priority, and we need to make sure that it is fully funded so our students, so our teachers, so our communities can thrive.
And doesn't it seem like it is by design we are not funding our public schools so that parents will look for other options outside of our neighborhood
Of course,
public
especially
schools?
when we have writers of the bills holding our basic allotment increases hostage with the voucher.
Right.
It seems by design that our public schools are being held hostage.
Okay. Let's. This is actually testimony on 1605, but
I was going to wait.
let's say we've had a intellectual discussion there. So, does anybody else have any more questions for this panel? All right. Seeing none, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Chair calls Kelly Kieschnick and Evelyn Brooks.